Today, we're going to talk about how to make sure your users not only want your app, but that they need your app. And honestly, a lot of entrepreneurs get this wrong. Maybe they have a really great app idea, and maybe they have the perfect list of features and functionality in mind, but you can build pretty much anything. But you can't always build something that people actually want and need. But ultimately, you have to make sure that those pieces are in place. And again, this gets skipped over a lot. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And make sure you stick around until the end, because we're also going to go over a free training that you can join in on right after this video, so you can get started with your app today, or to make sure that if you have already started, you are heading in the right direction. So first, if you're new around here, my name is Kristen, and I'm the co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps, where we help business owners and industry experts build custom apps to either start their app-based businesses or grow their existing businesses, all without coding and no technical background necessary. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're actually going to jump over to a website, simplypsychology.org. And I want to quickly talk about something called Maslow's Hierarchy. And basically, this outlines 5 core needs that we as humans have when it comes to just living life. And again, a lot of entrepreneurs, they don't dive into things like this when it comes to their apps. It's really easy to just think about the features and the functionality that would be really cool to have in your app. And it's also pretty easy to just build and build and build everything out if you know how. But should you? Should you be building all of those things? You have to answer that to make sure that your time is being spent wisely and effectively, and that you can actually get a benefit or a return out of the work and the effort that you're putting in, the money that you're spending on this, the investment that you're making. And so I want to talk briefly about this hierarchy, because it's going to help you understand whether or not people really need your app. So there are 5 levels, and you may have seen this before, but essentially, before anything else, before anyone thinks about doing anything else, they really need their physiological needs met. So things like, being able to have access to water, to food, to shelter. They need their safety needs met. They need to feel safe, whether that's personally, at home with their security, or with their job, or with their health, whatever it may be. They need to feel safe. They need to feel a sense of love and belonging. So friendship, intimacy, a sense of connection. They need to feel esteemed. They need to feel respected. They need to have some sort of a status or recognition, maybe within their community, or maybe at work, or maybe even just within their family. And they need self-actualization, which is just a desire for growth, a desire to be better. And when you can cater your app to pinpoint on one of these needs, you're going to be able to more effectively help users, or help your app appeal to users, and also keep users on board your app. Now, one of the reasons why I want to talk about this is because, number one, you need to make sure users have a reason to come on board your app in the first place. So I shouldn't say one of the reasons, really it's 2. You need to make sure that they have a reason to come on board, but you also need to make sure that you're building the right things. You're building your app to really pinpoint these needs that your users have. So let's talk about some examples of what types of apps might fall into each of these. And there's another step to this process that we're going to get into in just a few minutes that's going to make this kind of come full circle for you. But first, I just want to see if you can kind of group your app into one of these levels. So first, think about physiological needs. So people need access to water, to food, to shelter. And even, look down here, it says reproduction. Think of apps like Tinder that make getting a date Really, really easy. So much easier than it was before. You can literally just open up your phone and within a few minutes have a date, rather than having to go somewhere, go out and meet someone, or whatever it may be, right? Think about food. Think about apps like Instacart, which make it really simple to have access to groceries without even having to go out, right? These are physiological needs being met. And it can seem like physiological needs are really basic, right? We're talking about having a roof over your head. But you can look at this in the realm of the application world, and you can see how with this need being the most widespread and the really the most important in our lives, you can see how apps that fill holes within this need, or that fill gaps within this need, can really become successful because it's a major need. Now, look at safety needs with security, with employment. You can think of job board apps as appealing to this need. You can think of, apps that help you book appointments with health professionals of some sort, or with property, for example. Think of all the different types of marketplace apps that could fall within this level here. And even with personal security too. Think about the apps that now keep our homes secure, even, or keep our laptops secure. I mean, there's so many different types of apps that can fall into this level. And then with love and belonging, there are tons of social networks. I mean, think of Facebook, think of any app where you're actually connecting with individual people. And then when we get to esteem, respect, status, recognition, freedom, there are lots of apps that serve as platforms to help people get their voices out there. Even YouTube can be looked at as this, because people are able to achieve a sense of recognition. Anybody can create a YouTube channel and achieve recognition. And then with self-actualization, the number of self-improvement apps, the number of business improvement apps, there are tons of them. So think about how apps fall into each of these levels. Now, it's important to understand which level your app falls into. And again, there are really two reasons. The first, again, is to make sure that you can appeal to your users. Let's say that your app helps users with their safety needs. This is a core need that they have. Well, if you can't speak to that, you're going to have a hard time bringing them on board. You're going to have a hard time appealing to them and converting them. Now, on the flip side, once you're on the inside of the app, you have to make sure that the features and the functionality that you're building and the focal points of the apps and the processes that you're creating, they need to cater to those same needs. And while this might be kind of a psychology for apps 101, you really need to think about this, because without understanding what core need your app is really providing for users, you're going to have a hard time creating cohesion across all of your app and all of your messaging. Again, it's going to be hard for you to connect with a potential user, actually entice them enough to click through, and then again entice them enough to convert into maybe a paying user, and ultimately to keep them on board for the long term. It's going to be hard to achieve all that if you don't have this overarching or even underlying goal in mind. Now, your app it should solve a really specific problem for them. And that problem doesn't have to necessarily fall somewhere specifically in this pyramid. But the underlying root need does need to be identified, and you should be able to find it here. Now, what I want to do is talk about the next step of this. So I'm going to copy that and we're going to bring it over to the whiteboard here. So we have this pyramid, but once you can kind of wedge your app into one of these levels, you now need to take it a step further. So there are really 3 reasons beyond this why people would want to use your app, or rather why people would continue to use your app. So what we want to look at is the outcome that they're able to achieve by using your app. So the top 3 reasons of why someone would stay on board as a user are number 1, it saves them money. Number 2, it makes them money. Or number 3, it saves them time. So what I want you to do is first start here, start on the left, and figure out which level your app falls into. Figure out which need it really appeals to at the root level. And then after that, I want you to figure out which of these 3 things your app helps a user accomplish on the other side. What is the outcome that it helps them achieve? So let's say that with physiological needs, for example, let's say that your app helps users get food faster. It helps them order food in some way. Okay, first, you're meeting that physiological need for food. And the second is you are giving them the outcome of being able to save time. Okay, so your app needs to appeal to a need. That's why people need your app. But it also has to appeal to a want, which is we can look at as more of an outcome. Right? They want to use it so that they can save time. They need to use it because they need those groceries. They want to use it because they want to save time. Okay, let's look at safety needs. With employment, maybe you have a job board app and you're appealing to applicants who need to find jobs. They need employment security. They need a job. They want to make money. That's what they want. Okay. Let's look at love and belonging. For people who need a sense of connection. Well, before all the apps that helped people connect right on their phones, before things like Meetup, for example, or Facebook, or whatever connection app you can think of, it can take a really long time to meet people who you can truly connect with. I mean, again, let's go back to Meetup. Think about how easy it is to go onto Meetup, to type in your zip code, find different themed meetups within 10 miles from where you live, and immediately go and meet a group of people who have the same exact interests and maybe hobbies as you do. That's so easy, and it saves so much time. So people's needs are a sense of connection in that situation, but they want to save time, right? So we won't go through the whole thing, but I think you should be able to start to understand a trend here. You have to appeal to users' needs, and you have to appeal to their wants. It's important to actually understand what these things are before you build your app, or if you've already started, just take some time to figure this out, because it's going to help you immensely when you start to create messaging around your app, when you start building your brand, when you as you focus those features and that functionality in on the real needs your users have and the real wants that they want to achieve by using your app, or those real outcomes that they want to achieve by using your app. The more you can kind of put these foundational pieces in around your app, the higher chance of success you're ultimately going to see. Because at the end of the day, What this means is that you're not just throwing together a list of features and functionality that you think would be cool. You are actually meeting users' needs and you're providing them with an outcome that they want. And that is the most important thing in being able to appeal to users, convert them into actual users, paying users, and retain them long term. So I encourage you to go through this process, figure out which needs you're really providing, figure out which outcomes you're providing that your users want, and hone in your app from there. All right, I hope that was helpful. And we also have a free training. And in this training, we get a lot more technical. So we're kind of talking about some strategy here, some psychology behind apps, but we have a free 75-minute training where we actually walk you through a step-by-step process for getting started with your no-code app today, right now. And if you've already started building your app, go through the training anyways, because it's going to make sure that you're headed in the right direction so that you don't have to ultimately backtrack or restart your app down the road, which we don't want for you. So to start on that training, you can head to coachingnocodeapps.com/workshop, sign up for the training and dive right in and get moving forward strategically and correctly with your app today. All right, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.